I sat on the swings, watching a spider weave its web. Only a few minutes remained before the new day began. This spider had chosen the base of a children's slide in a public park. Back and forth, it worked, crisscrossing the end point of the slide. I marveled at the finished web, such an intricate creation built in just one night. You need a plan, I thought. The spider had one, and it only needed to work once to feast like a king for the rest of its life. Okay, maybe its plan had some flaws, but hey, no risk, no reward. I'm rooting for you, buddy. My plan is just as ridiculous as yours, but hey, I've got one too. Only the spiders and crickets heard my voice. Today was Monday, the first day of my plan. If everything went as expected, soon we'd watch the final domino fall under the cover of night. My name is Blake Fall. I married Shona shortly after we graduated from the University of Michigan. We both found jobs in the suburbs of Detroit. Our past is unremarkably dull. Typical college sweethearts who found each other, drifted apart to explore, and then came back together again. I'm a bit insecure, and that drags me into the murky waters of jealousy. I can be a real jerk to Shona if I don't like how she dresses or behaves in public. Sometimes I lose my temper, occasionally in public. It's not like she's unaware of this. We've had endless conversations about actions and consequences. Despite my flaws, Shona still agreed to marry me. Shona and I are avid shooters. We've taken all the courses: defensive handgun training, the NRA basic pistol course, and the classes required for concealed carry permits. We even compete in shooting tournaments at the indoor range. Shona has won the ANOC award for Best Female Shooter more than once. I'm not bad, but I'm nowhere near as good as she is. The suburbs of Detroit are mostly great places to live, though there are a few areas where it's comforting to know she's by my side, armed and ready. We still attend plenty of games: football, basketball, and baseball. In high school, I played all three sports, but I focused on academics in college. Let's just say I wasn't nearly talented enough to compete at the university level. Last Thursday, damn, it'll take me forever to get home. I perked up as Greg, my coworker, slammed his fist on the table. "How do you know that, Greg?" I asked. "I'm looking at the traffic camera at the intersection of Highway 7 and 82. There's a pickup truck on its side and a car on top of it. No way this is getting cleared tonight. You've got to see this." I walked over to Greg's office and looked at his screen. My stomach tightened. Standing next to the paramedics, her head wrapped in gauze, was Shona, or at least I thought it was her. She has a very distinctive tattoo on her left arm, stretching from shoulder to wrist. The people on the camera were too small to confirm my suspicions, but it was clear her flight to Chicago yesterday didn't take off with her on it. The overturned truck looked oddly familiar. "Can you grab some stills from this accident?" I asked Greg. "What are you looking for?" "I think I recognize that truck. I need to dig through my memory banks, but I'm sure I've seen it before." Greg captured the video and emailed it to me. After zooming in on the footage, I was almost certain it was Shona. Yesterday's phone call now felt like a complete lie. Uneventful flight. Nice room. Meetings went well. Miss you. Big day tomorrow. Late flight. Don't wait up. On the drive home, I was completely distracted. How much of a fool had I been made to look? Where could I know that truck from? No clue, but those blue and yellow stripes on its side haunted me. Shona called around 7:00 p.m. I sent it straight to voicemail. "Hi, baby. Bad news. My taxi to the airport got into an accident. I'm fine, but I've got a deep cut on my forehead. Long story short, I missed my flight. I'll let you know when I get another one. Love you. Call me." My heart hasn't stopped pounding since I first saw that photo. The sheer betrayal makes my stomach twist into knots, and it feels like flames are shooting out of my ears. I couldn't eat, no matter how hard I tried. The storm of emotions consumed me. Realizing that my marriage was a lie, I was filled with a burning desire for revenge against both Shona and her lover. I spent the next few hours searching the house, looking for something, anything, but not knowing exactly what I was searching for made it all the more frustrating. My boiling rage drove me on, but nothing stood out or caught my attention. My next step was to review her credit card statement. Since Shona travels at least twice a month, I figured there had to be some clue hidden in her spending. In a way, I was right. Cross-referencing her trips with her credit card activity revealed a strange pattern. Every other month, one of her trips showed no personal credit card usage. The only charges were for airport parking. She uses her corporate credit card for flights, hotels, and transportation. Everything else, meals and incidentals, goes on her personal card, which she later submits for reimbursement. Am I supposed to believe she paid cash for everything or didn't eat during those trips? What I saw on the traffic camera made everything clear. She had been staging a 2-day affair under the guise of a trip. Now I needed to figure out with whom. Damn it, this wasn't rocket science. I'd request a copy of the accident report. Shona keeps a file cabinet with her important documents. I wondered if her expense reports were tucked away somewhere. She's so organized that it only took a few minutes to find the right folder. Another minute confirmed what I suspected. Those trips with no credit card activity hadn't been documented in her expense reports. I wanted to pour myself a drink, but knew better than to give in to that impulse. Does it even matter how long this has been going on? Yes, it does. This was cold, calculated betrayal. My revenge would be just as carefully planned, matching the depth of her deceit. When it came to the divorce, I'd play fair. What choice did I have? She'd get her 50%. Prenuptial agreement? Yeah, that's right. She'd get her 50%. Sleep came slowly, and coffee took longer than usual to kickstart my brain in the morning. When I turned on my phone, there was a message from Shona saying she'd be home later today. I left for work without even trying to call her back. Digging around online for divorce advice, I also reviewed our joint accounts. I need to open an account in my name only. The brokerage account would be trickier. I couldn't shift the positions, so I sold off enough to hit the 50% mark. I'd return to transfer my share when the time came. Not wanting to take any risks, I chose not to tell any of my friends, family, or colleagues about the impending divorce. At lunch, I received a copy of the police report from the accident. There was no doubt now. Shona was listed as the injured passenger in the pickup truck. The name of the truck's owner, Ray Stronzo, wasn't familiar to me. I was still puzzled about why that truck seemed so recognizable. At the very least, I now had the address of her lover, just 3 blocks from where we lived. A quick online search revealed the property deed. The lover owned it jointly with someone named Jill Stronzo, likely his wife. Other pages I found provided personal details about both Ray and Jill. It appeared they had gone to the same high school as Shona. When Shona called at the end of the workday, I decided it was better to answer, avoiding her catching on that something was amiss. "You're back," I said. "I've been trying to reach you since last night. Is everything okay?" I realized my phone had been off this morning and again around lunch. "I'll need to get it checked. How was your trip?" "Everything was fine until the taxi ride. I'll need some makeup to hide the cut on my forehead. How about inviting a girl out to dinner?" "Of course, though I don't have much of an appetite. Pick a place and I'll meet you there." I took the long route to the restaurant, passing by the Stronzo residence. I noticed the truck wasn't parked in front of the house. A flag hung from the porch, and suddenly it all clicked. The flag of the University of Michigan. That truck was the same one we'd seen at Michigan football games in Ann Arbor. That's why the truck's blue and yellow stripes seemed so familiar. At dinner, I genuinely tried to act normal, but Shona sensed something was off. "Is something bothering you, Blake? You seem really distracted today." "I just have a lot on my mind. Don't worry about it." Later that evening, when Shona began her nightly routine of removing her makeup, I slipped into bed and pretended to be asleep. She slid in next to me, bare-skinned, and pressed against me. All I could think about was what I'd discovered, and the image of her betrayal left me cold. Sensing my distance, she gave up and didn't press further. The next morning, as I left for work, Shona was sound asleep. I took the opportunity to check her car. Hidden among the cushions in the back seat, I found a second cell phone. Turning it on and scrolling through the messages confirmed what I already suspected. She and Ray had been involved for months, if not longer. Well, they would have to face the consequences of their actions. I'm not a violent man. I couldn't imagine doing anything physical to either of them. What I needed was a creative solution. Meeting with a lawyer might jeopardize my plan, so I decided to avoid that for now. Discovering her affair had completely blindsided me, but if my plan was going to work, I'd need to act quickly to protect what I could. I gathered what I needed and spent the weekend keeping my distance from Shona. On Saturday night, she wanted to be intimate, but I just went through the motions, leaving quickly and pretending to fall asleep. On Sunday evening, she tried again, starting with slow, sensual affection. When she finished, We lay there in silence until she tried once more to draw me in, but my thoughts kept circling back to her betrayal, and no amount of effort from her could make me feel differently. Frustrated, she eventually gave up, and we fell asleep. I woke up early on Monday morning and spent some time at the park. I needed to be sure I was ready to follow the path I had chosen. Shona's dilemma. I thought I had everything under control until that phone call. Monday mornings are always hectic at work. I usually handle several calls an hour. My office phone rang, and the caller ID displayed private. "This is Blake," I answered. "I know what you're doing with Ray. I want in," said a voice, soft and high-pitched with an annoyingly nasal tone. He hung up before I could respond. Damn, I've been found out. The rest of the day and evening, I couldn't focus. I was completely unsettled. That evening, one of our nightly rituals, sharing a cup of hot tea, seemed like the perfect chance to relax. Blake always drinks his tea before bed. As we sat together, Blake seemed concerned. "Are you sure you're okay? You're acting like something's really bothering you today," he said. "I'm fine," I replied, forcing a smile. "Just something at work is annoying me. I need to distract myself with something else. Do you know anything that might keep a girl occupied for a while?" It felt like Blake wasn't really interested in the conversation. He barely responded before heading off to bed, leaving me even more on edge. I came to the conclusion that no one intended to blackmail me, but the paranoia lingered. That night, I resolved to stop seeing Ray altogether. It wasn't worth the stress. The next day, I received another private call. "This is Shona," the same voice said. "You both snore. Last night, you wore a tank top with a blue teddy bear on it. You sleep on the right side of the bed. You weren't wearing underwear, so I got a good shot of your body." I doubted he heard my sharp intake of breath before hanging up after delivering his statement. I ran down the hallway and vomited into the first open restroom stall I found. After work, I discovered a small envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. I cried for 30 minutes after seeing a photo of my exposed body taken the night before. He had been in my bedroom. I felt violated. What had I gotten myself into? That evening at home, I busied myself with paying bills and organizing tasks, anything to distract myself. But the question lingered, how did he sneak in during the night? Was he a friend of Ray's, an enemy? The voice wasn't familiar. I would have remembered such an irritating tone. "Blake, do you think we could install locks on the exterior doors?" I asked. "I think so. What made you bring that up?" "I just heard about some recent break-ins. I don't want anyone sneaking into our house while we're home. I'll add it to the to-do list." I couldn't get a proper night's sleep. Every tiny creak, the housemaid sent a wave of fear through me. By morning, I was doing my best to pull myself together, but the nightmare continued. "This is Shona," the voice I dreaded most replied when I answered the phone. "Nice pajamas last night, no distractions, ready to be my plaything. Who are you? What do you want?" "You know what I want. Your place or mine?" "Come to my house, you creep. I'll put a hole in your chest the size of a tennis ball." There was no response. I requested and was granted a 2-hour lunch break. I was a mess. Who could I turn to? I'd kept my affair with Ray a secret from everyone. That's wrong, isn't it? From everyone, except at least one stalker. Blake slept with me again that night, but now I was starting to wonder if he knew something. We don't make love anymore. Maybe we haven't made love in a long time. I've been so consumed by my affair with Ray that I've probably neglected my relationship at home. The lack of sleep is starting to catch up with me. "Blake, I think I'm coming down with something. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight so you won't catch it." No. I actually like the firmness of the bed in the guest room. I'll sleep there," he offered. "Blake, I've been having nightmares. I'm keeping a gun with me tonight. Let me know before you come into the bedroom." "Will do. I don't need any Oakley pulling a stunt on me. How about I install a lock on the bedroom door? I'll add it to the to-do list. Sleep well." Now I'm really starting to wonder if Blake knows something. What was that? Sleep well? He always ends his goodbyes with "I love you." When was the last time I heard "I love you"? After Blake went to the guest room, I pushed a chair against the bedroom door. I placed a few trinkets on the windowsill and slid a gun under Blake's pillow. I just hoped that if my stalker showed up tonight, he'd make enough noise to wake me up, and I'd blow his ass to pieces. The next morning, I received yet another call. This is Shona. Well, I stopped by, but I don't see a hole in my chest. Nice trinkets. I picked up a few of them. With Blake in the other bedroom, maybe I can drug him, then you and I can have some good fun. The headboard of the bed should be perfect for handcuffs. He hung up before I could respond. I rushed home during my lunch break, and sure enough, 3 trinkets were missing. I ran to my bathroom. What the hell have I gotten myself into? If I go to the police, Blake will find out about my affair. What choice do I have? I need to tell someone. I can't let myself become a toy for some stalker. Ray wanted to meet tonight, but I made an excuse not to. Using my burner phone, I told him we needed to cool things down for now. His texts made it clear he wasn't happy with that decision. I didn't know if the stalker had found me by following Ray. I was so scared and confused. Should I just submit to him? How will this end? Maybe I should tell Blake and ask for his help. My poor performance at work had been noticed by my immediate supervisor. I received the standard pep talk. It was so awkward. I'd never needed one before. Walking to his office, I could feel eyes on me and hear quiet giggles. I cried for an hour before Blake came home. I'd pulled myself together and applied fresh makeup before joining him for dinner. After hanging a few bells on the window and door, I felt a bit calmer. Try sneaking in now, you creep. On Friday morning, I tried my best to be productive, but that only lasted until his call. This is Shona, the nasal voice began. Love the bells. You had me worried for a minute, but you slept through it all. Did you notice I unloaded your gun and left the bullets on the windowsill? I also returned your trinkets, ready to wrap those sweet lips around me. I froze. My hands trembled and my legs felt weak. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't keep my stomach settled. I wanted to scream. I sprayed half a can of deodorant to cover up my stress-induced sweat and panic. I have to tell Blake. I can't keep this up. But then another thought crept in. I can't tell Blake. I'm so confused. Why did I even do this in the first place? My head was spinning. All this drama, what was it even for? Some meaningless, animalistic sex? This isn't love. Damn it, Ray was never even that great in bed, not even back in high school. What the hell was I thinking, getting involved with him? Sunday was no better than Saturday. Every time the phone rang, my blood pressure spiked. When I answered another private call, it was him again. Blake was working in the backyard on the lawnmower. Hello. It's time, Shona. Next time you're alone, you'll be my toy. The line went dead before I could respond. I was sweating and shaking. Sooner or later, I'd end up alone in the house. I couldn't take it anymore. The day dragged on, each minute stretching endlessly. I nervously glanced at the clock. Tonight, I didn't want to sleep. Just before bedtime, my world turned upside down. I need to run back to the office, Blake said. I won't be gone for more than 90 minutes. Please don't go, Blake. Can't it wait until morning? I'll only be gone for a little while. See you soon. I made sure all the doors and windows were locked. After closing the bedroom door and hanging the bells, I sat on the bed with the light on. Grabbing the gun from under the pillow, I checked the magazine to ensure it was loaded. My heart pounded, and panic set in when I heard the faint creak of a floorboard. I hesitated, pointing the gun at the door, then the window. When the doorbell jingled, I fired. I heard a groan and fired again, and again, and again. The door flew open, and a figure dressed in black collapsed face down on the floor. I was shaking uncontrollably and looked down, realizing I had wet the bed. I was trembling so badly that using my phone felt almost impossible. 911, what's your emergency? I just shot someone in my house. I have a gun aimed at the body. I'm too scared to approach it. Please try to stay calm, ma'am. Can you provide your address? 5 minutes later, though it felt like hours, the first patrol car arrived. A minute later, an ambulance and several paramedics pulled up. Within half an hour, the house was swarming with police. I wanted Blake. I needed Blake. Where the hell was Blake? Our state has a stand-your-ground law. Uninvited guests in your home? Deal with them as you see fit. If the intruder died, the investigation was typically closed. In this case, paramedics quickly transported the man to the hospital. He had lost a lot of blood but was still alive. Blake sat and waited. I told Shona I was heading to the office. Once in the garage, I put on latex gloves. I found Shona's burner phone in her car. copied the message that had enraged me earlier, and resent it to Ray. The content hadn't changed. It was the same as it had been months ago. Even the time it was sent was nearly identical. I returned her phone to its original spot. I turned onto the street and waited until the single light in her bedroom turned on. It didn't take long. Then, I returned and unlocked the front door. Once finished, I quickly left and headed to my office. Our workplace has extensive surveillance cameras, and I needed my access card to get through the gates and into my office. I logged into my computer but just sat there, thinking, would this actually work? When I devised my plan, I purchased a burner phone and installed a voice masking app. That first night at home, I could sense Shona's panic. Each evening, I added a small dose of a sleep aid to her hot tea. By the time she went to bed, she was completely out. That first night, I adjusted her position to take a compromising photo and printed it using our home printer. The panic in her voice on the second day was exactly what I had hoped for. Each night, she was completely unconscious, allowing me to make as much noise as I wanted without her stirring. On Friday night, I woke up around 3:00 a.m. and used a safety pin to prick the back of my neck. Once I saw blood, I cleaned off any evidence of the pin. After taking 3 sleeping pills, I quickly passed out. That morning, I reflected on the text she had written months earlier that had enraged me. He just left for the office. Bring your hard body over and fill my warm, wet spaces. You don't have much time. I estimated that I'd need to head home in about an hour, or whenever the police called. An hour would mean the plan had failed. A call from the police would mean success. Then my cell phone rang. This is Blake. Mr. Fall? Yes. Who is this? Sir, this is Sergeant Willis. There's been a shooting at your home. Your wife is unharmed but very shaken. Can you come home to comfort her? I'm already on my way. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Who doesn't love it when a plan comes together? When I arrived home, the neighborhood was flooded with flashing red and blue lights. Making my way past the officer standing guard, I entered my house. The moment Shona saw me, she jumped to her feet, hugged me tightly, and started sobbing. Detective Sampson sat across from us, his notepad resting on his lap. Mrs. Fall, the intruder's name is Ray Stronzo. Do you know him? Oh my God, no, Shona exclaimed, shaking her head furiously. Oh no, I'm so sorry, Blake. Oh my God. She broke down into uncontrollable sobs. Detective, I interjected, my wife is clearly overwhelmed by all of this. Could you give her a moment to collect herself? Sampson studied her carefully before nodding. All right, let's try this again. It seems like you do know Ray Stronzo, don't you? Shona wiped her face, her hands trembling. We went to high school together, she admitted quietly, her voice barely audible. Around that moment, an officer tapped Detective Sampson on the shoulder and whispered something into his ear. The detective stood and stepped out of the room for a minute. I did my best to appear shocked and concerned. When Sampson returned, his expression had shifted. He glanced down at his notes before speaking. Mrs. Fall, he began, I'm placing you under arrest for questioning. Officer, please cuff her. What's going on? Shona cried, her voice rising in panic. Detective, this is absurd. I protested, trying to sound outraged. We found his cell phone, Sampson said. Your wife invited him over tonight. We need to investigate further. Shona turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Blake, I didn't do anything. Please, you have to believe me. Please don't leave me. I stood, shaking my head, and walked out of the house without looking back. It was all I could do to keep from smirking. From the driveway, I watched as they escorted Shona out of the house. She was still pleading. Help me, Blake. Please, help me. No, Shona, you're not some random victim. It's only a matter of time before they find your phone and the message inviting Ray over. After they sealed the house with yellow tape, I made sure it was locked before leaving. I spent the night at a motel. Even the most outrageous plans can sometimes work. Shona used her one call to involve her parents. The police obtained a search warrant and found Shona's burner phone with the incriminating message history. It didn't look good for her. My first call was to initiate the divorce process. Finances were reviewed and documented. Shona would get her 50%, but I wouldn't have to pay her legal fees for her first-degree murder attempt. I withdrew 50% of the cash from our joint accounts, opened an account in my name only, and redirected my payroll direct deposit to the new account. The brokerage account was easy to split since half of it was already liquid. The divorce lawyer settled everything before Ray could initiate any legal action. That was a relief. Once the yellow tape was removed from the house, I packed up all of Shona's belongings and delivered them to her parents' home. I hired professionals to thoroughly clean the house. My lawyer accompanied me to the one interrogation the police requested. Shona tried to convince them that I had framed her. It was the only explanation that made sense to her, as she insisted she didn't send that last message. When they inquired about the cell tower data for her phones, the answer confirmed it. The evidence aligned with my account and their theory that she was a cold-blooded perpetrator. Apparently, Annie Oakley wasn't as sharp under pressure. Only 2 out of 5 bullets hit their mark. One tore through Ray's abdomen, destroying a kidney. The other grazed his right ear. I think I can live with that, though I had expected more precision after all their shooting practice. Epilogue. I watched from the gallery as Shona tried to defend herself. She claimed she had been stalked, but she didn't tell anyone about her affair. She insisted she never sent that message. My husband must have known and set me up, she said. The media reported that she'd been offered a plea deal. I think her overconfidence in her ability to handle the situation got the better of her again. Guilty, 20 years. I didn't wait for the divorce to finalize before moving on. There's no shortage of admirers eager to comfort a betrayed husband once his wife starts serving her time. Shona's assets were depleted rather quickly as she fought for her freedom. I wasn't on the hook for anything, and even if Ray had tried to sue, there were no shared assets of significant value. Paying a lawyer just to win a moral victory didn't make sense, so no lawsuit ever materialized. I truly need help dealing with my jealousy. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.